news, views, voices of the global Indian community. India abroad.
Is here on the dais with me, and even more so the distinguished participants in front of me. It's such a happy day that after 6 years we meet again for this very important forum. It's been some time, and in these 6 years, as we know, we went through the COVID, and I'm happy to start by saying that we in India, we have seen a robust recovery post-COVID. Our air passengers have reached to levels both in the domestic and in the international flights to the pre-COVID levels. Our airlines have been resilient, and they have passed through the COVID period, and in fact we have new airlines which have started in these last few years and even more in the pipeline. So I think it's been a long time since we met, but it's been a good time for the civil aviation in India these last few years. Let me move to sustainable aviation. India is cognizant of its responsibility towards climate change, which can be seen from its goals, its participation in the international discussions, and commitments to net zero emissions by 2070. India has also announced, in the context of aviation, indicative targets of blending of the SAF in the aviation turbine fuel, 1% by 2027, 2% by 2028, and 5% by 2030. And I'm happy to inform that this is based not unilaterally by the Ministry of Civil Aviation, but in a collaborative way with our Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, and through them the oil companies that we have in India. And we believe these targets and our involvement and participation in the course here and the various other discussions on sustainable aviation would go a long way in both signaling the intentions and also actually galvanizing movement towards more sustainable aviation. I would now like to briefly touch upon the regional connectivity side of aviation that we have been focusing on. We have been promoting this in India through a scheme that we call the RCS UDAN, and which in fact, while UDAN translates also into the English meaning flight, also has as an acronym an intention to make every citizen able to fly, able to connect from his or her town and city to the bigger cities. So it's an ambitious program, but I must say it is something which has been transformative. 569 new routes have commenced connecting 85 airports in India, and also moving on to water aerodromes and also heliports across the length and breadth of the country. And this regional connectivity scheme has had about 269,000 flights and carried about 13.9 million passengers. So it is indeed something which was unthinkable in the past 10 years ago, but which is now a reality. It is an aspiration that we, along with our citizens, intend to increase, expand, develop, nurture, and see that it becomes a sustainable foundation for the growth of the aviation in the wider sense, from the metros, from the bigger airlines, from the bigger cities. So that's about our regional connectivity scheme. Again, on one of the other issues, on the helicopter services, on the smaller airfields, on the smaller aircraft, it's again something that we see as vital elements as we develop the civil aviation in India. The helicopter sector, we see much potential. We would look at developing policies to promote helicopter services in the various aspects, and to give an immediate example on HEMS, Helicopter for Emergency Medical Services, especially for the hilly parts of the country. We have been working on this, and in a project called Project Sanjeevani, we have reached a point today, I am happy to announce, where in the state of Uttarakhand, which is a hill state, through the collaboration again of Ministry of Civil Aviation, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare in the Government of India, and the state government of Uttarakhand, and the premier health institution, the AIIMS Rishikesh, that is the All India Institute of Medical Sciences based in Rishikesh. We are now ready to deploy a HEMS helicopter, and it should be sooner rather than later that we start this innovative use of helicopter in India. On the smaller airfields and also on the seaplanes, the water drones and the helicopter services, the coming months should see much activity, much concrete progress. We see these as part of the development of the ecosystem, so that the citizens in the smaller towns, in the hill areas, in the remote areas, in the island locations get connectivity, and to the participants in this high-level forum, I think the various aspects of that would really build up into an ecosystem that is useful for all of us present here, as government, as industry, as airlines, as airport operators, and the entire aviation ecosystem. When people talk of India over the last few years, the doubling in the number of airports over the last 10 years has been mentioned, and indeed we are proud that while we had 74 airports 10 years back, the count has now reached 157. In fact, it's beyond doubling, and we are proud. But more than that, what I would like to present in front of all of you is the robust framework within which this progress has happened is, I think, something which gives confidence and should give confidence to all of us. Land is a big matter whenever an airport is to be developed, especially for greenfield airports. And in our system today in India, the responsibility that land has to be provided by the state governments through their own arrangements, through their own funding, is stipulated in our National Civil Aviation Policy 2016 and actually adopted and accepted by the state government. So I think that is really a very strong and reliable foundation on which the expansion of airports in India is happening. To give specific examples, some of you may have heard of the new airport at Noida in Jewar. The land is fully arranged by the government of Uttar Pradesh. Near Mumbai, in Navi Mumbai, again there is a new airport that is coming up. Again, the land is provided by the government of Maharashtra, and in various other locations, and also for the brownfield airports. If it is to be expanded, if the runway is to be extended, if more land is required, the framework on land being provided by the state government is now an established and accepted fact, and I think that is something which is giving us the confidence that as the need arises, the airports would be able to expand. The second on the airports is about the tariffs, and especially for our friends from the private sector, the fixing of the tariffs that the airport operator can charge is now something which is again well established in the hands of an autonomous airport economic regulatory authority. So it's at arm's length from the mainline government. They look at the projections and financials of each and every major airport. They publish consultation papers. It's an It's a transparent process, it's a consultative process. Stakeholders, all the stakeholders, including the airlines, are open to give their comments and suggestions, and it's a framework which has stood the test in the various airports which have been established, and I think that is something which we in the government are proud of, and I think any potential investor can be confident about. The second thing which gets mentioned when aviation in India is discussed is about the aircraft orders. In fact, before we come to the large number of aircraft orders which our carriers in India have done, and we applaud each and every one of them, including those represented here in this hall today, we really applaud them, we are there to support. But even from the existing stock, again, over the last 10 years, the number of aircraft in India have doubled. It was about 400 10 years back, and it has increased to about 800 today. So it's again something which has been a major achievement. In fact, really something all of us in this room together have achieved. So I applaud not just the Indian carriers, but everyone involved, everyone in this room. And again, more importantly, as the aircraft start coming in, increase in number, it is the ecosystem which is getting developed, or the ecosystem which is getting created, I think, which is something I'd like to briefly mention. As the number of aircraft increases, maintenance has to be done, better maintenance has to be done, the MRO industry will develop, can develop, and I think that is something very exciting. The airspace becomes more tight, air navigation systems have to improve, the equipment have to improve, the software has to improve, the training has to improve. Again, huge potential on the air navigation side. So the entire value chain. And on the legislative side, buying aircraft, acquiring aircraft involves leasing substantially, especially in the Indian context. And we from the government side are aware of that. In fact, when the ICAO had convened the Cape Town Convention, we had been part of that as a country. India was there, India had ratified. And in fact, since the legal opinion at that time was that an executive ratification would be adequate, it was done in that way in 2007. But with hindsight, it has been found that a legal backing is what is required, and we are ready for that. I would like to announce clearly and emphatically that India is ready to create a law, to create a bill, an act, which would confirm the ratification by India of the Cape Town Convention. The paperwork is ready, and it should be something done in this calendar year. So I would like to make it very clear to all stakeholders in the aircraft, leasing, financing, and the entire ecosystem that the ratification of the Cape Town Convention is something that will happen very soon. I mentioned about the MRO, and I would like to elaborate on that. In the process of expanding the MRO, one of the long pending demands of the MRO industry in India has been the harmonization of the tax structure in India. And the Ministry of Civil Aviation has made serious efforts, and in fact renewed efforts in the last few months, and something which has been lingering for a few years. We have reached out to the Ministry of Finance, we have reached out to the Cabinet Secretariat, and I'm happy to announce that the GST Council this Saturday just passed, has announced harmonization of tax rates on import of aircraft parts, components, toolkits for the aviation MRO industry in India. It is a big step. We believe it will allow the Indian MRO industry to expand, to attract more MRO business, and In fact, the in-country MRO business potential, which has already reached to estimated levels of $2 billion, out of which just about 20% is being handled in India. We believe that this should get fully handled in India, and maybe even more as we attract the aviation industry in and around the country to bring their aircraft to India for the MRO services. So it's something that I think an opportune time while we gather here as an aviation summit, that the regulatory and financial requirements are also being met by the government of India. As we expand, a very critical element is the requirement of pilots, and the last few years have seen a focused attention by our regulator, by our entire system to promote the flying training organizations, the training of pilots, the streamlining of the procedures. For your information, today India has 36 flying training organizations. They are spread out in 56 bases, and in fact, the last calendar year we had our regulator, the DGCA, had licensed the highest number of CPL, the commercial pilot license, in a calendar year, 1,622, and we believe that this is just the beginning. More is required and more will be achieved, and it is also an area that I would, from this taking this opportunity, invite partners and partnerships in the area of pilot training, both for the CPL training and even equally important, the type rating training that is required to fly the various aircraft. I now touch upon women in Indian aviation, something that we are really proud of, something that is a very central part of our focus. And in fact, last year around 20% of the commercial pilot licenses in India were issued to women, a significant achievement even on the global stage. Within the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, which is the regulatory aviation safety regulatory body in India, women constitute 11% of the workforce. We have implemented several measures to address gender disparity and promote female participation. Regular interactive sessions with women in the aviation sector help understand their challenges and aspirations. And I also acknowledge that represented in this hall are our big corporate partners who are really looking at promoting women in aviation even more. And today we have around 13% of aviators in India who are women, and is, to our understanding, the highest for any country. Additionally, in India, 26% of our air traffic controllers are women, 18% of flight dispatchers are women, and 9% of aerospace engineers are women. We are proud of this, and I would like to announce that it is our intention that the good experience that we have had gives us the enthusiasm to support it even more, to promote it even more. In concluding, I would like to thank the USTDA for having organized this 7th summit, and it's timely for us. We have a new government in Delhi, and I'm also happy to announce that it's the same government which has supported civil aviation over the last 10 years. It's a government which is willing to listen. It's a government which intends to be decisive, and I would like to invite all those present, all those who are friends from the US to come and visit us, to come and talk to us. We are there to help in whatever needs to be done. Thank you very much.